Hello, you're tuned into Coast to Coast Real Estate with Jaqueline Steib. This podcast will take us all across the globe as we learn the ins and outs of real estate from the industry's top advisors. Here we are now with Jaqueline Steib.
Welcome to Coast Real Estate, broadcasting simultaneously from the beautiful city of Manhattan Beach, California, and
Portland, Oregon.
Love that. In today's episode, you will get to know the amazing Jesse Knight. There's a lot of great things that we hear out there about Jesse. One thing I like about him is his big smile. You're not seeing it right now, but he has a big smile, and that personality shines every time you get to talk to him. Without further ado, allow me to introduce you to Jesse Knight.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. If anything, I've probably been accused of smiling too much. But if you can't have a little fun while doing all of this, then what's the point? Which I guess does bring me into, I'm Jesse Knight with Cascade Sothebys International Realty in Portland, Oregon. It's always tough introducing yourself, From a real estate perspective, I've done this a very long time. I'm in my 18th year right now. And I really kind of love connecting with people and problem solving and navigating kind of the roller coaster ride of transactions. Outside of work, I'm a huge dog lover. I have a brand new little puppy that's keeping me busy. Huge sports fan, love the outdoors and recreation. And I'm an amazingly average musician and a pretty talented home cook.
What's your instrument?
I grew up playing guitar, but since then I play piano. I picked up the drums in my late 30s and play drums in a band now. I'll play just about anything. I'm very much a jack of all trades. I'm pretty good at a bunch of them, but I'm not amazing at any of them.
I try my luck at piano. I have very long fingers, and I was good. I just never kept on practicing. And when I was in middle school, I play the bass. I would have loved to play the violin, but I never had the opportunity.
We bought this beautiful square grand piano off Craigslist when Craigslist was a thing years and years ago, just because it was gorgeous. And neither my wife nor I really played piano. And after about a year of this beautiful piece sitting in my house and just being an art piece, I'm like, someone's got to play that. And, I grew up playing music, so I sat down and just started playing. That was probably 15 years ago now. While I'm not a great piano player, it's probably the one I actually play the most often because it's so easy to just sit down and start going.
I love whenever I have an open house and I have the opportunity, there's a piano. I'm like, all right, I'm going to play in here. Yes, I do that at people's houses.
Little secrets behind the scenes of the real world of realtors' lives. I've been known to bring guitars or ukuleles or all kinds of things to open houses just to keep myself occupied.
Open houses tend to be my quiet time. I love to read. So if I have that chance, you will see me reading a book.
That works.
I'm not one to have a house full of music or anything like that. I like people to hear the sounds of the house. And then again, unless you have a piano, then I'm in trouble with that one. Hey, how did you end up in your city?
So I actually ended up here on a bet. My wife and I went to high school together, so we've known each other for a really long time. Kind of lost contact over the years. I was still living in LA, and she'd moved up here to Portland, Oregon when we reconnected. And we ended up making a bet on the Lakers-Blazers Western Conference Final Series. It was one of those kind of things that, whoever's team lost would fly the other one into town for the weekend. And so my Lakers won, of course. And she flew me into town, and I kind of fell in love with Oregon. And she and I, rekindled. And in a very short amount of time, I moved up here, and it's all history since then.
Hey, at least we know we can always count on the Lakers.
Right? I mean, I'm an LA kid. I've been up here 20 years, just about. But my roots are always going to be LA.
One of the best cities and one of the best basketball teams. Sorry about the rest of you of the world who like somebody else. I'm in LA. I like Lakers.
Ticket holder and have been for, again, close to 20 years. But when the Lakers come to town, I still put on my purple and gold and just tell everybody, being a Laker fan is my birthright.
Tell me, what are the things that you love the most about your city?
When you first fly into Portland, the first time flying here, if you've never been here before, you come in and you see Mount Hood, the snow-capped peak, and then you see just how green it is. And the word you hear all the time is lush. Growing up in Southern California, I always thought it was very green. There's lots of trees, and it is, until you fly into Portland, Oregon, and you see just this different level of deep, deep green with all the fir trees. So it's amazingly beautiful. It's kind of like living in a mountain town. We've got the river running through the middle of the city. And then on top of it, we're this like amazingly creative, artistic, really interesting community. We've got some of the best restaurants in the world right here. We were on the front edge of the food cart revolution. Great music scene. It's just this really, really unique city. It's got a small town vibe and a big city body. Terms I use all the time is user friendly. It's a really easy place to just fall into the flow of it and kind of set roots down here.
Love it. What's your favorite food?
Ooh, I don't know how to answer that. I've been on a big sushi kick recently. Like I've been all about the sushi recently.
That's a number one in my house. My kids would say, well, why don't we have sushi tonight? I'm like, every night would not be possible.
Yeah, because I've got bills to pay.
Sushi gets pricey. So I have a family of 6. So if you can imagine that bill. Hey, take me back to maybe LA or I don't know, somewhere else within the world. What was your favorite childhood memory?
This is always tough. So it's this beautiful day here right now, and the sun's shining and it's gorgeous. And made me think of what I really loved to do growing up with, skateboarding and BMXing with my friends and just being kids. That I grew up in the 80s and we were still allowed to run free and run wild out in the world, right? And, for better or for worse, we were kind of, we were latchkey children, right? We left when it was light out, and more or less the rule was come home when the street lights go on. And so we spent all day BMXing and skateboarding. When I got a little bit older, heading out to the beach and surfing. So just all that stuff, just enjoying the outdoors and hanging out with all my buddies.
Yeah, I'm going back to my own childhood. And yes, that was the case. My cousins and I would grab food. We'd have a little picnic and we would disappear for the whole day.
Yeah.
It's getting dark, time to go home.
And like a lot of kids, both my parents worked. So you'd have to hide a key and, we'd kind of come in for a pit stop from time to time and then head back out. And, you would do the circuit between your house or one of your friend's house or your buddy who had the pool. Yeah, it's just how it was. And it's amazing how much time we spent just being kids back then.
Yeah, somehow we lost that along the way, didn't we?
Bit.
When you decided to have a career in real estate, who was the first person who believed in you?
So I think the first person who really kind of saw something in me was my first broker, who also owned the company I worked at, Ron Garcia. And he's still a fixture in the real estate community here locally. He'd been in the business forever, actually got his start in the Bay Area. For whatever reason, we just kind of bonded and connected. And I learned a ton from him. He was a wealth of information. We butted heads a ton. It's funny, looking back, it reminds me of sort of a parental relationship where after all these years in the business, I realized he was right more often than not. But, a young new broker, I knew everything in a lot of ways. And I really do find myself saying, ooh, he was right, damn. But I've coached and mentored a lot of agents over the years. And so we always talk about these Jesse-isms, just these things that I say all the time. And a lot of those are actually Ron-isms. A lot of them actually came from Ron, and they're kind of living on through me. And that someday I'm sure there'll be, Chris-isms or Jody-isms. And they probably weren't from Ron originally. His broker Fred had a lot of, kind of tidbits as well. So, but yeah, Ron would definitely be that guy.
Isn't it always great when you find somebody who somehow you attract, and you attract because they have so much to give you and you have so much to learn from them, but it is a real relationship where we all take and give something to that person, and then somehow our life completely changes. So is he the one who got you into the Sothebys family?
No, he's actually a few brokers gone by, actually. I had always worked at boutique shops for the most part, private ownership. And Ron decided to merge his and become a franchise with GMAC, who's long since gone. That wasn't a good fit for me. So I left to work with a friend of mine who ran sort of like the tech-based real estate company M Realty, which is also now gone. But I was working at M when the crash happened, when the big market crashed. And, being a youngish agent, I was looking to cut overhead. I just want, we can spend a lot of money being at brokerages. I didn't know what the future was going to look like after that crash. I'd been a principal broker at that point for a couple of years already. So I went solo. I went independent. That didn't last long because people started calling me. So my plan to be independent became me growing a very small boutique brokerage. So the next thing I knew, I had a handful of agent friends working for me. And then at some point I realized I needed more manpower around me. Through this really interesting random connection, I was out having drinks with one of my favorite lenders, and he was texting with one of the PB principal brokers over here at Sothebys. They were looking for someone to run all of their Portland and Southwest Washington and Oregon Coast operations. And they were having a really hard time finding what they wanted. They wanted someone who had a lot of real estate knowledge with a big personality and a connector.
Right there.
Like, oh my God, I'm sitting with the guy. You need to talk to Jesse. And I didn't think of anything of it. I wasn't looking for a job. I certainly wasn't looking to manage. But next thing I know, I'm having lunch with Dory Olmsted, who was the PB here. And by the next day, I was having lunch and drinks with the owner of Cascade Sothebys, Deb. We hit it off, and Cascade Sothebys was still fairly new in Portland. It had been a fixture in Central Oregon for years and years. But here in Portland, Oregon, it still had sort of a startup vibe. And my background is in tech startups in the Bay Area during the tech boom. And I felt a lot of that, like that excitement. And while I wasn't looking for a management gig, it had so many things sort of excited me. And I'd always been in these boutiques, and all of a sudden I'm looking at like not just a big company, but a global entity. And I was fascinated. I just kind of wanted to see what it looked like from behind that curtain, particularly on the like management executive side. So very quickly, within a week or two, I'd come on. So that's how I ended up here. And then it took about 6 months to remember that, oh yeah, you really don't like managing. That's not why I'm in this business at all. And so I stepped back and just went back into representing buyers and sellers again, which is what I really want to do.
Well, as a manager, you have to deal with different personalities of all of us agents who come up with their own big packages. And sometimes some of us have big heads.
It's the good old phrase, herding cats. Like, agents are the worst. We get a lot of free spirits and free thinkers to get into this industry, and we're all our own bosses. Ron, going to go back to Ron, he used to talk about that managing brokers have authority but no power. And there's some real truth to that. We're also lucky. So our principal broker here, Michael Babe, is actually the VP of operations for the entire company, is just brilliant. He's probably the best broker I've been around. He was my partner when I was managing, but it was easy to step back because I knew the company was in good hands. He's so much better at that role than I ever was.
That is one component, and maybe behind the curtain thing of Sotheby's, that you have all of your management. They all kind of interconnect, and they seem to say, okay, I'm taking a time off, and then the others just step right in and they have a beautiful dance. At least I can see that within my own company.
Very much the same here. It's that interconnectivity that's made Sotheby's such an amazing place for me in general. So obviously the managers and the brokers, but like this, you and I are connecting, and we met because of our affiliation with Sotheby's. We like each other for totally different reasons, but that was the part that opened the door. And I'll be completely honest, I did not think I would stay at Sotheby's forever, because I thought I'd go back to boutique brokerages again. It was just a very Portland guy. When I think of the image of Sotheby's in my head, it's not me. But then I started meeting all the people and seeing how amazing these human beings were. And they're brilliant real estate agents, but they're just amazing people. And now I've got friends and colleagues and contacts literally across the world, and it's all because I'm here. So, I can't imagine ever going anywhere else at this point, because these connections are golden.
The good thing about those connections is that we take the time to make the connection with each other, and we're always there for each other. So even if you decided to go somewhere else, that is perfect.
And again, I never expected it. There are other global brands. Keller Williams is a global brand.